Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to News 9 Live. A very good morning to you. Joining me here in the studio is my colleague Varghese P. Abraham. And what Varghese and I essentially get down to early in the morning is that, with your cup of joe, your cup of tea, whatever it is that you like to have early in the morning, you can join us here on our live stream every day from 9 to 10 is when we're discussing the real happenings, the developments, the overnight developments. What are the English and the Hindi newspapers telling us? What are some of the wires that one can look at? What's the news actually of the day? And Varghese, it seems like with the kind of headlines and blurbs and various things that I'm seeing in the newspapers today, I've got the Times of India copy with me for the benefit of the viewers. It seems like TV journalists are going to be quite happy across the day today. And there seems to be so much to be, talking about the rains in Bengaluru. You've got the hellish heat across, North India, Assam, AFSPA, Manipur violence, the Prime Minister's jaunts, the geopolitical scenario in the Pacific.
Money.
There's so much that needs to be talked about, and the pink notes. The 2,000 rupee pink notes, people still are asking and coming up with the same questions. I've had somebody come up to me and ask me, is this again a demonetization like situation? What's the difference? Can you help me understand what happened back then and what's going to happen this time around? But first and foremost, you really can't essentially move beyond the first page. It says, China looming, India steps up presence in South Pacific. Narendra Modi ji with the Indian diaspora, Indian flags, just smiles all across. There's nothing else. It's just pure smiles. It's almost like a celebrity fanfare for the Prime Minister.
Well, it is a celebrity fanfare, but beyond this, there is something more deeper. We have the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the Prime Minister, both of them at these specific countries, and both of them were holding parallel summits. And it's got a lot to do with the Quad from outside. And at the same time, Kabir, India is now going beyond its look east policy. And of course, the elephant in the room is none other than China, who's driving both US and India to look into the Pacific Island groups. Because the Pacific Island groups are strategic locations in the Pacific Ocean, and China has been having its eyes on this completely. So it is very important that we in fact try to figure out as to why India is also joining in, because what India has in fact looked for bilateral relationship with these nations in the Pacific is on pharmacy, on fuel aid, as well as with regards to certain fertilizers. So these are strengths that India has, and it wants to leverage it with these specific countries. And here, the big bogey has been China's looming debt trap. So
take a look at those visuals.
Yeah, of course.
This is Sydney, if I'm not mistaken, and his arrival in Sydney. For the benefit of the viewers, Australia is 4.5 hours ahead of the Indian Standard Time. That's the Prime Minister. I mean, the sheen with which he carries himself on foreign soil, it's something that one just ends up being proud of when you open the newspapers the next day. Take a look at these visuals. I'm sure the internet agencies are going to come up with small short videos of how Modi ji received a grand welcome when he arrived in Sydney. But from Fiji, from Papua New Guinea, the highest civilian awards that were being bestowed upon the Indian Prime Minister. Even as he got off that plane, yesterday we were talking about how the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, James Marape, he bowed down to touch Prime Minister's feet to greet the Indian Prime Minister in the Indian way. So in the geopolitical scenario of the Pacific region of Southeast Asia, seems like the elephant in the room isn't necessarily just China anymore. I mean, one has to really take into account, really factor in what India brings onto the table.
Well, that's what I said. Like India was in fact using, and see, this is very interesting. Tribune has put it, 12-point plan for Pacific Islands. And that is what Modi ji has said. What is it? 100-bed facility hospital in Fiji, IT cyber security training in PNG, 100 Sagar Amrit scholarships, Jaipur food camp in PNG by year end, FIPIC SME development projects, solar projects, everything that is, part of India's strength has been in fact showcased over there. And Tribune has a very interesting way in it, has in fact put it across, and in fact speaks also how it is actually a parallel summit. So India is using its soft power as well as its economic might to in fact go ahead and be relevant when it comes to it. I was just looking at probably it is in one of Hindustan Times also, which is talking about, yes, the India scales up ties with Pacific islands. So again, over here, the question has been about, in the opening remarks of the meeting, Modi referred to challenges facing the small island countries, such as climate change, health-related issues, and barriers to the supply of food, fuel, fertilizers and pharmaceutical. And he goes on to in fact make a slight remark over that. He says, those whom we considered trustworthy, it turned out they were not standing by our side in times of need. A clear reference to China in this. So it looks like there is a geopolitical event also happening on the parallel side of this, and therefore I think it is interesting to see how India's outreach goes beyond its look east policy, and Hindustan Times, of course, in bringing on that. But I think the Express has an interesting ideology.
Can I be the devil's advocate here?
Yeah.
I mean, because nobody's going to ask this question, so I'm just going to put it out there. There's a 12-point plan. The Prime Minister's pledged, IT and health projects all across these smaller countries, these smaller island nations that India really wants to help. Take a look at how we've helped Sri Lanka. Let's not forget the evacuations that we've conducted. But at the same time, do you think the Prime Minister going on foreign soil, of course, you've got several people, several fringe elements as well in society that are going to be, that won't take much time, but to jump to the fact that, the Prime Minister is wasting the taxpayers' money, going abroad, is spending more time abroad, all those memes and all those, those quirky trivias, negative trivias about the Prime Minister that do the round on the internet. I'm just saying, if the Prime Minister goes out there, these IT projects, these health projects, do you think these are, like toothless initiations that don't really trickle down in terms of benefits to the larger population, but for a great, it does great for a headline, but nothing else?
Well, for that, Kabir, the issue that we have to look over here is that this is a continuation of a foreign policy idea, and it did not start with Prime Minister Modi. It has been from the Congress period itself, Manmohan Singh onwards, and even beyond that, we had Atal Bihari Vajpayee also, who was looking at this look east policies, and now going beyond the look east. Now, even the US has said that it is now an Indo-Pacific pivot. That is to say, the large strategic area is now from the subcontinent towards the Pacific Ocean. So it's a huge strategic area that we are looking at. Why? Because you have Indian Ocean and you have the Pacific Ocean, and these are the oceans where you have the maximum amount of trade happening, whether it is from the Middle East to the nations in the Southeast, which are also considered to be your Asian tigers because they have their own economic stories and success stories to say. But in that entire process, there is a very assertive China that has emerged, and that China is something that we have to do. And as I was saying, in fact, we had Indian Express putting out that story, Eye on China. PM says some nations not standing by Pacific Islands in times of need, while others were in fact not that much. They was focusing on the island. But here in Indian Express, they actually go to the entire bullseye. That is to say that it is China that is driving India's policy in the Pacific as well. We need a lot of allies. We need
the Vibrant Villages program. Our push of infrastructure on the border. I mean, all of this is derived because of the fact that China is putting the right kind of pressure.
And we are coming with a soft cultural approach. We are coming on a humanitarian approach. Okay, let us look at how we had handled Afghanistan. When we handled Afghanistan, even after the Taliban came, there is a lot of goodwill. Why? Because we went with people-centric projects. And here also we are going to go with people-centric project. Unlike China, which comes with a project and that country goes into debt, we are not looking at that aspect as such. We are looking at how our foreign policy initiations, our foreign investments, in fact, reap dividend when it comes to people-people contact. So that is something that we are looking at. The Prime Minister is following that continuous. Our foreign policy, to a large extent, has been consistent. Whether any government changes, the foreign policy doesn't change. And the benefits of it is something that we are seeing right now. And even if it is not Prime Minister Modi now, you will in fact see the specific aspect of it being continued even as the days progress in the future as well.
So, I mean, I'm not too sure if you know about the Prime Minister's, routine, his itinerary.
If you can actually put it out there, I didn't come across
I
it.
have
In
the
fact,
I haven't the
if you have that
slightest
small
clue.
piece of
we
news,
know
I think a
he's
lot
in
of people
Australia.
would
It is the end of his 3-country tour. He is going to be back in India because let's not forget 28th is when he's going to be inaugurating the new parliament as well, the new parliament building,
we have to wait
the
for
Central Vista project. So the Prime Minister in Australia, gung-ho welcome always, the diaspora smiling. And let's not forget, even as China looms, India has stepped up its presence. It's not a pushover anymore in the geopolitical scenario when the Pacific and the South Pacific region is being looked at. I mean, you've got the President of the United States saying that, the autograph of Narendra Modi is something that is in demand. So, I mean, coming from one of the most powerful positions on the planet, it does say something. But what is, as I move a little lower from the top headline, one has to again talk about Manipur as well here, because you see fresh violence that erupted in Manipur yesterday. That's what we saw, and now it seems like the forces that were deployed there, there was a little sort of like a little lull in the kind of the way they were dealing with the situation in Manipur. Right now it seems like forces are again out, flag marches are again being conducted. Take a look at these visuals. You've got people coming in, proper checking that is being done. This is how the Times of India has put it. The embers of the ethnic strife in Manipur were rekindled after at least 3 houses were set ablaze overnight in Imphal East District. This while a tribal ex-MLA was arrested along with 2 armed aides for allegedly intimidating traders in the state capital into downing their shutters. 3 people were reported injured in another separate skirmish in Imphal West late on Sunday. So these skirmishes, far and many, are, there's no chance of them dying down anytime soon.
Also, Kabir, the Hindustan Times has given one more piece of information in it. What it says is that, as you said, Chief Minister N. Biren Singh said that 3 people were arrested for the arson, including a former Bharatiya Janata Party BJP lawmaker, an appeal for calm. Okay, and then he also the report also says that the police did not immediately reveal the identity of the ex-MLA. So it looks like it is kind of a very serious situation that they are looking into.
I'll tell you how serious this is, Varghese, because we did a detailed analysis of how many boots are actually on the ground. What's the actual number? Above 12,000 boots on the ground over there in Manipur. And it seems like the Chief Minister, N. Biren Singh, has said that the state government has decided to seek 20 additional companies of central forces to supplement the army and the paramilitary forces, both of which were out on the streets to prevent retaliatory mob attacks like those that pulverized the state a couple of weeks ago. The curfew has been extended. We were going to look at, hopefully, the internet ban that was going to be, brought down, but that ban has also been extended.
Till
so
May
no
26th.
internet, shortage of supplies over there. Evacuations continue to happen. The Metis, the cookies, that separate demands. And let's not forget the negative, the evil forces, the shadow of the Golden Triangle and the forces over there trying to exploit the situation to their advantage.
Well, also over here, one thing that we have to notice here is that there is again a huge displacement that is happening. The Metis, the Cookies have kept moving to safer areas as tensions have persisted. The Metis and Cookies keep moving to safer places is what I'm looking at the Hindustan Times, and this is what they are saying, that at least 7,472 Metis have migrated from the hill districts to Imphal Valley, while 5,200 Cookies have left Imphal Valley. Now that shows that the division, the social division, is in fact becoming more and more
So people
sharper.
are talking about the cartelization that's happening, right? People are talking about the cartelization that's happening in the border areas of Manipur that touches its border periphery with Myanmar. People say it's a porous border, it's been left to God. We've got all sorts of poppy cultivation that's happening, and the pressure of the cartel is immense. So if people of Manipur that are willing to stay there and fight end up leaving that place entirely, what then happens to this particular area? Do you think this is going to help poppy cultivation, Varghese?
Well, see, poppy cultivation, if you look at Northeast as an insurgency-ridden situation, most of these insurgents have been relying on poppy cultivation to fund their weaponry. So this is the economics behind it. And poppy cultivation has become a huge issue on two fronts. One is that people are finding it very lucrative, and that is why you have competition on the local level. Then you have these insurgent groups that are trying to fund themselves with that money. So it is, and then of course you have this issue about the golden triangle, Myanmar, Thailand, as well as
Cambodia, Laos.
all of them.
I'm not even sure if it's a triangle anymore.
So,
I mean,
so now you have that spillover effect
hexagon,
on
whatever it is.
So you have that spillover effect on the Northeast as well. And Manipur, all these layers are now need to be looked into. It is not a simple issue about two ethnic groups fighting with each other. It is no longer that. It is about economic survivability of these groups. It's about the issue about space. It is about trust. It's about the complexities associated with it, such as when it comes to the issue about the scheduled tribe status. So there are several of these issues that are layered into this conflict. We are seeing from the fact of violence over here right now, because the fresh violence has happened. But the issue is that yesterday also when we were speaking to experts, they said that the partition of Manipur on Kuki as well as Meitei lines have taken place geographically.
Demands for a clear separate administration out in the fort.
So
I'm just suggesting, if these sensitive issues, for example, and for the lack of a better example, I apologize if I'm hurting sentiments out there. I'm just saying, if let's say the Khalistan ideology and the Khalistan sentiment, what's happening in Punjab, on, well, you know, towards the west. Take a look at what's happening in the east. You've got the northeastern states. Is this a situation where, you know, suddenly it's a push it under the rug kind of a situation because, hey, we don't want to deal with this right now. It's too tense, it's too sensitive. You touch it and it's going to explode. It's better to push it under the rug. Do you think that's what's happening right now? And maybe that's the best way to go about it.
Well, as of now, the issue wouldn't be that. The issue, Kabir, would be this, that they have to restore as normalcy as fast as possible. And now that's why they're having more boots on the ground, because there is no other choice left.
Which, by the way, is not a good sign. I mean,
it's not a good sign. It shows that things are not you know, going the way it was supposed to be planned. And yesterday's violence has, in fact, probably gone ahead and worried people in Delhi as well. And for this, we need to have peace committees in place. We need to have confidence-building measures in place. But for all that to happen, the violence should first cease. And for the violence to cease, you have to have the guns out of the system. The entire gun culture should be out of the system, and the violence can cease to a certain extent. They have been doing that. They've been trying to, in fact, have you know, a survey of the weapons that are being held, but still it seems it's not meeting success. And then you have the insurgent groups that are also present in this. They have, in fact, said that they will now talk only to the government, especially the Kuki insurgent groups had said that they will talk to the government now based on separate administration.
Right.
They were, in fact, probably reaching a deal when it got scuttled completely with this violence. And the peace, the saddest part is Manipur, with all its potential, being probably the link
state you could come up with
Southeast Asia.
We know that there are multiple factors at play here. There's no possible way of arriving at one answer. If there was a solution or two that you could, you know, propose at this point in time, what would they be, Varghese?
Well, the solution, first of all, is that the government should, no matter how many boots have to be on the ground, they will have to ensure that peace is there, the guns are out. There are peace committees of Kukis and Meiteis brought together, and there should be confidence-building measures. That the violence-hit regions are, of course, going to be very tough, but it will happen. If both the leaderships of both the communities come together, it can happen. They have to sit and discuss this on a dialogue. The thing is, the government needs to understand that there is a trust deficit with the current government, so that has to be addressed. Then the trust deficit between the people from both the ethnic communities, that has to be addressed. And right now, it would be to establish these peace communities, having both of them together and trying to appeal for peace, going from street to street and appeal for peace, saying that it's not what we ought to be engaged in. And this is something that we have to look into. Plus, there are other extremist organizations within the state that have been feeding fuel to this fire, which needs to be addressed immediately. These organizations need to be taken care of first, because they are the ones who are fueling hatred into the system. So they have to be taken care of. And Manipur has a
Essentially,
huge...
people in Manipur, the Hill or the Valley, whatever it may be, essentially people in Manipur that are not willing to give life a second chance, essentially, to give reformation a second chance, to give their future a second chance. Those are the people that need to be weeded out, you know, at the earliest. Joining us also on the broadcast is a very senior TV journalist and my dear colleague, Pankaj Mishra. He joins us on the broadcast here. Pankaj, a very warm welcome to you and a very good morning to you. I hope the tea is hot. And what do you make of, you know, the situation in Manipur? I mean, we're already looking at Assam that is looking to do away with AFSPA completely. But before we talk about that, the Times of India has put out this, you know, small little article. It says the trouble began. All of the entirety of the trouble began as Meiteis were told to close their shops. That's how it began. So essentially posturing that it was the other side, not the Meiteis, it was the Kuki Nagas, it was the other side of this battle that came up, you know, that actually waged the war.
Yes, indeed, Kabir. You know, the catch-22 situation here in which Biren Singh government is caught is very critical at this point of time, especially when we are seeing dramatic scenes unfolding in Manipur's capital, and also the army presence that was there hasn't been reduced so far, and looks like they have a long haul to stay there. Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has also admitted to the fact that there is a security lapse and intelligence failure, and this comes amid back-to-back 2 days of incident of torching of the houses. Who done it? Well, that remains to be seen, because on ground, Kabir, the situation as of now, what appears, what we are also receiving is at least 24 to 48 hours old as far as the footages are concerned. So we cannot actually confirm that for certainty that who actually torched the houses, who fired first, who started it again, all over again. That is something that remains to be seen. But the news from the ground that we have received is that for the second consecutive day, houses have been burned. This time in Imphal. Now that is very critical, because we have seen normalcy returning in the capital city of the state, but still now we are also witnessing how it is reeling back into the similar situation. Arms and ammunition, one very key aspect of this whole scenario, they have been recovered, and the frequency of the recovery of arms and ammunition continues, because we had seen a couple of weeks ago that the police and the army in a joint operation had recovered the arms and ammunition that were looted from the first phase of violence from several police stations across the state. Now, once again, a huge cache of arms and ammunition have recovered. Kuldeep Singh, the security advisor to the Manipur government, has also reassured that all efforts are being put in to restore normalcy and peace. Biren Singh has, Chief Minister also, as I mentioned earlier, has asked them to maintain peace and not to blame each other. It's time to move on. That's something which is we are learning. What Verghese was mentioning, quite true, and what the morning newspapers too have flanked it on the front pages. Manipur tension back as houses set on fire. Chief Minister appeals for calm. Now, this is which I'm holding today's edition of Indian Express, but I'm sure rest of the newspapers too have given priority to this particular information from the northeastern part of the country. And one critical piece of information which I could not take my eyes off, Kabir, was the fact what Biren Singh has said. He has appealed to public to restrain from any form of violence and to work towards building peace. Mob violence will not bring any solution. I appeal to the public to remain calm. Our government is doing whatever it can do to bring normalcy. Have faith in the government. Well, this is something which shows the helplessness of any government, and Biren Singh, for that matter, has the tacit backing of the center as well, has boots on the ground also on his request. Aerial surveillance footages that you are beaming across is also there, yet the ground situation, Kabir, is far, far, far from normal.
Absolutely, and that ground situation, Pankaj, something that you're talking about, could have been even worse had it not been for the army and the security forces, the Assam Rifles, the CRPF, various paramilitary forces, the Assam police, the Manipur police, all those boots on the ground. On the other hand, Pankaj, take a look at this, and Varghese, you as well, just directing the viewers' focus a little bit over here. This coming from the Assam Chief Minister, Himanta Biswa Sarma. He's saying he may lift AFSPA, the controversial, army arrangement, from entire Assam by December. He says the contentious armed forces, which is the Special Powers Act, the AFSPA Act. Now, for the benefit of the viewers, it is an act that vests extraordinary powers on the central security personnel engaged in counter-insurgency operations and is likely to be withdrawn by December from Assam, this coming from the Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma himself. So, by the way, Himanta Biswa Sarma today, a huge voice for the Northeast. It seems like in one state where you've got more deployment being asked by the Chief Minister of another state, one could say that the most important Northeastern state in today's time.
The eldest sister of all the seven sisters.
The eldest sister
of all the
eldest sibling. Yes, absolutely. The eldest sibling is saying no more boots, no more AFSPA essentially on the ground in entirety of Assam. What's your take on this, Varghese?
Well, this is technically a follow-up announcement when it comes to the issue about AFSPA, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. We had Amit Shah also hinting at a possibility. He said that so many districts are already AFSPA free, so the whole of Assam can be made AFSPA free. We are looking into it. And AFSPA has a history of it itself. In fact, it was put in place when there was insurgency running in Assam, and there was no other option but to fight that insurgency, and therefore these extraordinary powers were vested into the armed forces. And of course, it looks like as of now that situation is better in Assam, and the conditions for talks have also been progressing, and therefore the government thinks that it is time that this act is in fact removed, because it tends to restrict the freedom of the citizens in the state, but again with the viewpoint of the integrity of India, and also to stamp out insurgency by dialogue or by force. This was in fact put in place, but now it looks like dialogues have been happening, back channel talks have been happening, and Himanta Biswa Sarma also thinks that as of now it is becoming too much of burdensome on the Assamese state when it comes to its people, and therefore probably looking at AFSPA being removed.
Well, absolutely. Pankaj, we know the controversial past vis-a-vis the AFSPA Act. But earlier this year, we saw the elections to the 3 northeastern states. And sometime late in 2021, you had the Home Minister Amit Shah. Earlier on in 2022 as well, Amit Shah had come out and said that, we're going to completely lift AFSPA from the entirety of Northeast. There is significant improvement. Now, already elsewhere in Northeast, AFSPA is no longer enforced in Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram. So why not? Why not the eldest sibling also go the younger sibling's way?
Well, Kabir, it's a very peculiar case as far as Manipur is concerned, and Assam is concerned. Assam, for the longest period of time, we have seen there was a two-pronged approach that the militant and insurgency groups had happened. One was on the domestic front, and the other was on the international front, which we had with the bordering nations. Now, because of the porous borders, because of the lacunae in the system wherein we had insurgents coming in from the Assamese part of India into the Indian territory, that mostly after relentless efforts from both the center and the armed forces has been brought under control to a very great extent. As far as the insurgency part, or as far as the influx of the people is concerned from the neighboring countries is concerned, to check that, if you remember, NRC came into picture, and that was something that effect was palpable. Now, with that practice being put in place, the case of Assam is in a comfortable situation as of now. So the government also has no doubt that now, slowly but surely, not in one go, but step by step, the AFSPA can be done away with. But as far as Manipur is concerned, other northeastern parts of the country is concerned, and many would say that why not do it away altogether in all the parts of the country? Well, that again depends on the topography, the threat perception of a particular state. Now, Churachandpur, the hotbed of Manipur violence, is significant in ways more than just one. It is not just that Kukis and Metis had a tiff in that part of the northeastern state. No, it's not like that. It is very important, very critical, because it is just a few hundred kilometers from the very porous border of India with Myanmar. And we have seen it in the past how Myanmar insurgents have come down into Tripura, have attacked the defense forces which are manning and patrolling the boundaries. And that way, that threat perception increases manyfold. The arms supply, as far as it's concerned, the kind of antisocial activities, the way they tend to hijack a domestic issue, all those things need to be taken into consideration. So I believe that for the government of India, obviously it's a very tightrope walk, whether to make a choice between the safety of the people, the rights of the people, the identity of the tribal community there, and also to safeguard the borders, which might, who knows, could become a bigger problem than we have at hand right now.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we can only hope that good sense prevails in the end whenever we're taking a decision where the lives of the people of a state are at stake over there, and that peculiar predicament that Manipur and Assam are going through. Pankaj, quite eloquently put. I'm sure we could do a 15-minute discussion debate on television on this as well. I was looking at some other top headlines on the front page. I think it's imperative we talk about those as well. But I also found this on the Dainik Bhaskar front page. I just want to take the viewers through this. Satyendra Jain, the Aam Aadmi Party, former minister and the Aam Aadmi Party leader, he's been lodged in jail owing to a PMLA case, a money laundering case. Now, they've come up with this particular photograph. If the camera person could just zoom in on this particular photograph, it shows how Purv Mantri Satyendra Jain ka jail mein 35 kilo wazan ghata. So essentially, the picture on your right is 35 kilograms. What a great transformation for the minister in there. And let's not forget, the irony was that he himself was a jail minister of Delhi, and there you have it. So an unfit Satyendra Jain, most certainly, I mean, that's one good thing that's happened. If he is certainly guilty, that's a added bonus. Now he's a fit-looking minister. He's going to be, Rahul Gandhi's got some competition finally. But speaking about the top headline right in the front here, the 2,000 rupee notes. That's something that everybody is talking about. The pink notes are not going to they are still going to exist as a legal tender, but they've been withdrawn by the RBI. But what does this essentially mean, Varghese? I mean, because you've got that economic background, you've got that financial brainstorming game going on for you. Well, tell the viewers, and I'll tell you what, it's the youngsters out there. Help them understand what really is, what does the RBI mean? I mean, the governor, Shaktikanta Dasa, he was talking to a lot of media people. But that verbiage, those words, I mean, those financial words, how does people read between the line here?
See, if you look at the so-called demonetization of the 2,000 rupee notes, it was decided when the first demonetization happened. Now, they had to ensure that the value of money that is already there in circulation did not dip out in such a way that you cannot remonetize it. So, it was part of the remonetization that this high value denomination of a currency was introduced. Now, after it was introduced and you have enough remonetization and you have enough of 500 rupee notes in circulation and you have restored back to the levels that you require, you are now removing that 2,000 back. So, what it means is that if there was 1,000 rupees in circulation and you try to demonetize that 1,000 rupee, in that you introduced your 200 rupee was the highest denomination factor that was there, and to reach that 1,000 rupee of circulation, you tend to put this money out. Your higher notes out, like a 200 rupee notes, and easily remonetizes to say that the value is kind of kept in par. So that is what they plan to do. and now it is over. Now they have replaced those 200 big denominations with a lower currency like 100 rupees and 50 rupees. So we have enough of that to replace that value, and you have been slowly sucking the 200 rupees from the 1,000 rupee circulation thing from the system, and therefore now you have enough and more lower denomination notes to match the value. And now you have
Is there
been
going to
doing
be
it.
impact or not?
See, as of now, it doesn't, I mean, all of them are assuring that there is no impact and all, but personally, to a lot of people, let me tell you the
How
story.
can there be no impact? I mean, it doesn't.
I'll tell you some story. If you look at the elderly, they, of course, a lot of them now don't keep 2,000 rupee notes, but there is this lingering question. And this lingering question is very important. This particular note was printed by the government of India, I mean through its the RBI, and has been put into circulation. How much of trust can I have on those notes is an issue. It's a very simple issue. I mean, we can give them complex words saying, no, it is not that the great, kind of, but there is a trust deficit that has developed, but people are worried that, this could happen anytime and every time. And
there's a lingering bad taste because of the demonetization.
Yeah, the demonetization experience has been bad. And that is why probably if you look at all of the newspapers, in fact, the Hindu's headline says that do not rush to swap 2,000 notes is what RBI is saying. And Shaktikanta Das, in fact, trying to say, cool down, don't worry, there is no issue when it comes to it. There is around
deadline for return of 2,000 rupee notes may be extended. Let's bring Pankaj in on this. Pankaj, I mean, household budgets were completely thrown out of gear when demonetization happened. People are calling this the Demo 2.0. There are weird names that are coming out. When the news story also broke, 3 days back, people had instantly put up headlines saying, this is demonetization 2.0 without really understanding what's happening. The RBI governor here says that there's not going to be much impact. 2,000 rupee notes were essentially not the notes of the poor. The Prime Minister reluctantly had to, take that particular step, which, by the way, I'm not buying that particular tweet, that particular information. But personal opinion, of course. What's your take on the fact that there's going to be no impact? This coming from the RBI governor.
Well, yeah, Kabir, we heard Shaktikanta Das actually trying to placate the seemingly worried and why not the gentry, the people in the country as far as 2,000 rupee is concerned. But the fact remains that one more aspect that has come to light only this morning through the newspapers is the fact that many people are now heading to the petrol pumps, and they are using 2,000 rupee note to get fuel for their vehicles. And this has left the petrol pumps in dire need of change, because obviously people used to, queue up to petrol pumps, Kabir, earlier, I would say until a couple of years ago, when there was a hike in the petrol prices, which would be effective from midnight. So people used to queue up outside the CNG gas stations, outside petrol pumps, as we have seen in Delhi and NCR region, and I'm sure in other parts of the country as well. But this time around, people are indeed queuing up. They're trying to fill their tanks, but using 2,000 rupee notes. So if Shaktikanta Das says that 2,000 rupee note is not for the poor, it was not in circulation, it was used for business purposes, all those things might look good on the paper. But when it comes to you and me, honestly, and trust me on that, I mean, we would want to get rid of this 2,000 rupee note as soon as possible, either by buying groceries or getting it changed from the bank. The working class doesn't have much time, so how would you go on the bank hopping? Saturday, Sunday. Sunday, the bank would be closed. Saturday, half day. Maybe second Saturday, fourth Saturday, banks closed. Even if you manage to sneak out time on a Saturday, which is the first and the third Saturday, obviously you'll have to stand in a long queue. So the best part is, so long as the 2,000 rupees is a legal tender, use it the way you want it, and who would take the pain of exchanging it. But obviously, given the size and the population of the country, in tier 2, tier 3 cities, people are rushing to the banks. The elderly, obviously those who have these currency notes with them, are queuing up at the bank. So that's why, because of that rush, Shaktikanta Das had to placate those nerves and tell them that there is no rush, don't worry. But once bitten, twice shy situation. Demonetization, people remember it for its good things and bad things as well. Queuing up in the banks was not a good experience for anyone, for that matter. This time around, the
I'll tell you what,
validity period
Pankaj.
is bigger.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
what. I am a great citizen of this country. I've got no 2000 rupee note on me. Absolutely not. Zilch, zero, nada. So I'm in the clear. I mean, you gentlemen can talk it out because I'm out of this. I have no 2000 rupee notes on me.
Well, Pankaj, just to add to it, the Hindustan Times has in fact put out this thing. It says that the Reserve Bank of India has advised banks to provide shade from sun and water to its customers. So it looks like the banks have also have a memory of how things were when the first demonetization happened, and there were instances where people had, in fact, suffered of heat stroke as well. So they don't want that to repeat. So they've said that please ensure that adequate arrangements are there when people come to exchange it, exchange these 2000 rupee notes. And as Kabir says that, well, he seems to have on air given that clearance about himself and a certificate to himself on this matter.
Absolutely, I'm clear. You check my records. All I'm saying is, you spoke about the heat, and Pankaj, weigh in on this as well. We will talk about, Delhi recording the hottest day of the year so far at 43.7 degrees Celsius. Two stations have touched the 46.2 degrees Celsius mark. I cannot believe that we had the coldest May day this month. And in the same month, we've already touched 46.2
Climate
degrees.
change.
So the fluctuation, the fluctuating climate, of course, all, pointing towards the climate change. But a political story that is taking shape, ladies and gentlemen, is the Aam Aadmi Party is drawing a lot of support. There's an ordinance that is curtailing the state's power here, Arvind Kejriwal's power. The Lieutenant General versus Aam Aadmi Party is, and that tussle is no news. Various flashpoints at that end as well. And the federal structure, something that Pinarayi Vijayan, Mamata Banerjee, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin earlier have also called out the central government. They've said, well, that they've had this the ordinance to transfer IS officers from one position to another. That's something that they've been talking about. The federal structure being jeopardized. Now take a look at what's happening in the national capital. Nitish Kumar, Bihar Chief Minister, he was here. He met with Arvind Kejriwal. Nitish Kumar then went on to meet Mallikarjun Kharge, Rahul Gandhi. Arvind Kejriwal is going to meet Uddhav Thackeray, Mamata Banerjee. So opposition support and that push for unity is being talked about. But Congress, after the Karnataka win, has solidified its position as the fulcrum of the opposition. Will it back the Aam Aadmi Party? Is something that they're going to decide on after talking to their allies and state units.
I think
it's going to be a big, big move.
I think we should in fact get Pankaj on this if he's there.
Pankaj, over to you.
Pankaj is the person who has been following this entire thing.
Arvind Kejriwal and Rahul Gandhi, do you think will they ever share a stage in the near future?
Well, Kabir, if you ask me, I would not deny this possibility because politics, as the saying goes, makes strange bedfellows. And this time around, for Congress and Aam Aadmi Party, whoever the glue is, it could be the very astute politician from Bihar, Nitish Kumar, who, come what may, has always managed to stay in power, even if he needs to leave BJP behind. That is something which only Nitish Kumar can pull off. So for Aam Aadmi Party and Congress, I think the decks are getting slowly but surely cleared. We have seen how the Congress has expressed its dissatisfaction over the services and the powers of the Delhi government versus the center issue. And we have seen it in the past also, how slowly but surely these two parties are trying to, trying to raise the concerns of each other. Initially, we had seen Congress was reluctant as far as the two ministers of Aam Aadmi Party being sent to jail was concerned. But later on, when Rahul Gandhi's MP membership was revoked, he was guilty, pronounced guilty in one of the cases in Gujarat. That time around, Aam Aadmi Party had come out in support and had, in as many words, criticized what the government has said. So yes, if you ask me, I am game for it, and I'm looking forward to this sort of alliance. come 2024.
And it has become a prestige issue over here, Varghese, because take a look at this. After the SC order, before the ordinance was, promulgated, after the SC order, where the SC came down and, told that, Arvind Kejriwal is the boss of the national capital. It's apart from these 3-4 things that are not under his jurisdiction, everything is with the state government of Delhi. I mean, that's why he's been elected in the national capital. Now, the Lieutenant Governor, beg your pardon, has reinstated the officer that was shunted by the Delhi government after the SC order. So, relations are already sour. It is a pure prestige battle between the LG and the Delhi government, and Aam Aadmi Party is now, like Pankaj is also talking about, is now being backed by these various other opposition leaders. If the Congress comes into this particular equation, how big of a support will this be to the Aam Aadmi Party, and vice versa, how big of a support will this be for the Congress ahead of the 2024 elections?
Well, it looks like the Congress will become, if this happens, and a big if this happens, that means the opposition parties across the country are now gravitating towards the Congress, and Congress is becoming the fulcrum around which all these opposition parties will build their own strategies. So the opposition galvanization is probably what we are looking at, and that is if the Congress goes ahead with this support. Because we must know that for AAP, the first enemy was Congress during Sheila Dikshit's time, and we have seen how AAP had in fact built an entire narrative against the Congress based on corruption, and now AAP of course is facing the heat from the BJP, and therefore its entire focus has been trying to fight the BJP right now. But then this particular ordinance is something that could again go into a legal battle, because this tries to circumvent that particular ruling from the Supreme Court, and it is going to be quite controversial, because we have known how the central government has been trying to keep its hand on the functioning of the Delhi government. You had the LG and the powers of the LG being questioned. It's been after a long legal battle that they got something like this. And plus, Delhi is not like any other state. It is kind of a quasi-state. It is not a full state, and all these issues are there, and therefore it will be interesting to see how this political support will go on, because it will also speak about how 2024
well, absolutely. I'm just interested to see, because Sanjay Singh, the Aam Aadmi Party MP, Rajya Sabha MP, he's come out and said that this is Agni Pariksha for the Congress party. It is trial by fire. They'll have to decide. Aam Aadmi Party says that the Congress party's test is that they must decide if they stand with democracy. So a vantage point for the Aam Aadmi Party already here. And we're running out of time here completely. And Pankaj, before we let you go as well, yesterday, well, I'm being told that Pankaj is not with us on the broadcast anymore. Busy man, he's soon going to be here in the building as well. An entire day plan for him to chalk out. But Varghese, we spoke about how the smart city Bengaluru, something that's built on lakes, bad planning, bad infrastructure, come rain and it's a proper swimming pool for the entire city. Yesterday we lost a life, a 22, 23-year-old techie. That car got submerged in a flooded underpass. Today, some more deaths that have come across, not just Bengaluru, the Mysuru region as well. I mean, I don't understand. Should we just become okay with the fact that it will rain and people will die in Karnataka?
Well, it looks like we have been forced to come okay with that fact, and that's what it is about. Of course, one incident that you're in fact raised today is about a 31-year-old man who washed away in a stormwater drain in Bengaluru, and that is what has been confirmed. The body of the deceased, who has been identified as Lokesh, was found in another drain in Byattaranapura neighborhood, about 12 kilometers away from the site of the accident in KP Agrahara area. This in fact speaks volumes of how bad the infrastructure is in Bengaluru. And also there was another report that was there.
These are the visuals from that exact same spot that you're talking about right now.
And this is what I'm talking about. This is how, if you look at it, this is part of the connecting drains that meanders across the city. And in some places it is open. When it's flooded, people can't make any sort of a guess whether they are on the road or they are moving into a drain. And this is the kind of situation. And people have been sucked by these huge drains. It's not the first death that's happened. Whenever it rains, there are people who've been sucked through manholes because the lid on the manhole, because of the pressure, it's open, it just pushes off. Right. So the bad nature of the drainage system is something. In fact, these are the visuals that we are looking at about the woman who died, the techie who died, Infosys staffer who died.
That's the car
That's
that
the
got
car that
completely
was.
stuck.
You see, the car is being pulled from from the underpass, and here a safety audit was not carried out. This is what today's papers, in fact, say that a safety audit on this was not carried out. So our cities are technically collapsing, and we are bursting at their seams and also collapsing infrastructure-wise. We have to do something about it as citizens, because we need to make sure that those who are elected are accountable.
Leaving it up to the administration and the politicians is not going to cut it.
Leaving alone to them.
Is not going to cut it, ladies and gentlemen. This and the responsibility, I mean, this is the one life that we've lost. For the many that we have to save, it's going to fall on us. The impetus is on us. Even if we read these gruesome headlines about 5 dead in Bengaluru, as Mysuru and Bengaluru both go under, rainstorm, the onus also lies on us. How much of burden are we really putting on the nature and the ecology around us? Are we really cleaning up after us? It's not as simple as just throwing your garbage in the dustbin and not, really focus on what happens after you throw your garbage in the dustbin. What happens next is where the actual challenge lies. Well, it seems like we've got an interesting and important and a long day cut out for us, Varghese.
We have a lot of stories to do.
A lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff to bring to you. Keep it with News in 9. Continue to join us here at 9 a.m. every day in the morning. Really become a part of our editorial team. Get down in the comment section. This is something that we're trying. We're trying to make sure that people that are actually consuming news and information really become the part and parcel of the dissemination of that news as well. On that note, Varghese, always a pleasure decoding the newspapers. And again, a disclaimer out there, not here to judge any newspaper. Just telling you, showcasing you what's important, what's really happening. If there is anything that we can probably read between the lines and put context to, that's what we're aiming at. Thanks for watching this edition of our newspaper chat on News 9 Live. We're going to catch you again tomorrow.